The last resource that I'm going to share with you is Nearpod. This is such a cool resource, and I just learned about it last fall, but it is something that I'm going to incorporate a lot in my teaching of third grade this year. I chose this resource because it is amazing and it keeps your students engaged while presenting them with new information. You can take students on virtual field trips, you can take polls, and you can let them draw within the presentation. And there's a lot more also. My purpose for selecting this resource was to give another presentation resource. Nearpod is amazing for showing students the world from your classroom. You can take them on virtual field trips to anywhere, and I think that is the coolest thing. It's very interactive, and it's definitely going to keep your students engaged. I think using this versus just regular PowerPoint or Keynote on your computer, this takes the cake no matter what. My audience would be my coworkers or teachers. I would use this to show them how to do it or how to use it. And the ISTE standards are 2A and 2C, design or adapt relevant learning experiences that incorporate digital tools and resources to promote student learning and creativity. And 2C is customize and personalize learning activities to address students' diverse learning styles, working strategies, and abilities using digital tools and resources. And the how-to, this is after you log in. I just used my Fort Hays email address to log in, and then this is not the screen that you first come to. It's going to help you customize. It's going to let you select what grade you teach, what subjects you teach, and then you can even pick a few different Nearpod lessons just to watch and experiment with. So I'm going to go to my Nearpod. And then from here you can look at your library, you can explore other Nearpods that have already been created. You can join a Nearpod, so say you're in a whole school meeting and your principal is using Nearpod. She can post a code and you can join Nearpod, and so she will be the controller and you will just see it on your computer. You can create them, and then there's reports. So I'm going to go to my library. I've already selected one that I want to do. So if I go for a live lesson, which is what you would do when presenting this to your students, your code that students will use is up here, and then you will click over here to go to the next slide. Okay, so let's see. So this is the code I would give my students. When I use this, I write it up on the board so I don't have to repeat it. And so students will, or you can also send it out on Google Classroom. I didn't realize that, but that's pretty cool. So your students will get onto Nearpod. They do not need to log in. They can just insert the code, and then you click continue. And so even if they come in late, they were in the bathroom, they come in late, your students can still get on as long as they get the code. And then here's a roster. So obviously no students joined mine, but if they did, they would put a name. You can tell them put your first and last, or you can tell them to just put their number maybe, anything you want. Okay, so here would be the beginning, and I go to the next page. This is a virtual field trip of Times Square. So I am clicking and dragging to look around. That's something you'll need to teach your students how to do most likely. And it also says up here I could add an activity. So I could add an open-ended question, I could have them draw something, I could add another slide, a true or false question. And then I go to the next page. And then this is another, I'm doing communities, so urban, rural, and suburban. So they get to look here. And then this is teacher notes, lesson objectives. This is important to put in there. And then they take a poll. So right off the bat, what type of community do you think you live in? And they will, right off the bat, they will select one without being introduced to what it actually is. Does where you live change how you live? That's something that you can discuss as a group before moving on. they cannot move slides without you. So if something is interactive within a slide, they can use their device, but without you, they cannot move on to the next slide. So then they go through urban, virtual field trip for urban, Times Square, and then you can draw a picture of maybe a billboard because urban buildings have advertisements, suburban, this is probably where most students live, virtual field trip, in a community. I think they probably could have used a more relatable community, but that's just me. And then rural. I live in a rural community, so this would be more accurate for my students. They get to see a farm and a different farm. So then there's a review slide. And then it's kind of like a little quiz at the end. It's a fill in the blank where they will drag these. Or they won't drag, they will fill these in, but I have it already. They will not. And then they take a poll. Which community would you like to live in? So maybe if they live in an urban community and they would like to live in a rural community. It's just kind of something to build your classroom community. And that is it. And this one was free, so you can find so many different free Nearpods. It's great. I really enjoy it. And then let's see, you can end the session, and you can also print out a report. So if you did an exit poll and you want to know what everybody said and keep that to document it, you are more than welcome to. And so that's Nearpod.